So busy chatting.
It's the one time that we're engaged in conversation and you miss the live button. Of course, we're with Berkey.
I blame Birkey.
It's valid. It's valid. It's all in play.
Yeah.
Well, we're 13 seconds in and we're already starting to flame him as well. Is that about right?
How you like this piece from Gary? God, there.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. That way.
Gary Skurlock down in Alabama sent me that. So
I was literally just nosing at that while you were grabbing your cider.
Well done.
I keep meaning to send my details across to grab one of the stickers as well, and just keep forgetting. So,
that's on my to-do list as well.
I've got some extras
it's
here.
It's on one of my to-do lists. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know. Anybody? I've got some extras. So
yeah, keep one for me and Andy, please.
Will do.
Yeah.
Why? What have you guys ever done for me? Have you have me on your podcast or anything? No.
First American guest.
Was I?
First return solo guest.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are. Now you've had some head injuries, yes?
Yeah. I have actually. Yeah, multiple.
Yeah. I fully understand.
I lost count, actually.
Not that explains anything, but it does tick a few boxes.
It does. Definitely does.
Yeah. But the first one was inflicted by my sister.
Really?
Yeah.
Sibling concussions.
I did. The worst thing is, I thought for about 40 years, I thought it was an accident. Seriously.
That tracks.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably one of the earliest memories I have is of being kind of carried by my mother with blood streaming from my head to the local cottage hospital. I don't remember anything else other than that. And I know that it was cool. I know as far as I believed until about 10 years ago, maybe slightly less, it was because I had climbed up the side of a pram and the pram had tipped over. And so I thought, it was just an accident. Yeah, it put me off climbing for many years. So I thought, it's just, basic physics, isn't it? Yeah, if you've got something, off the side of something else, it's likely to pull it over. Yeah. And then about, it must be 8-10 years ago, my sister admitted, she's 5 years older than me, she admitted that it was her pram, it was kind of her sort of doll's pram. And she didn't like the fact that I was climbing on it, and she tipped it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And she carried that on her conscience for 40 years?
I don't know. No, she was quite matter of fact about it when she told me. It was just like, and I was like, I thought it was an accident.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Big scar on the back of my head, amongst others. I've got several on the back of my head and several on the front. Yeah.
I mean, it explains a lot, but we'd have still had Andy back either way.
Yeah. I figure you guys are kind of like the engineers at Shaper, the company I work with out in San Francisco. I'm just here to make you guys feel smarter.
I'm glad you went that route and not to look good.
That's not it.
Join me and Andy to make yourself look good.
He doesn't need any help with that, Jamie.
Well, exactly.
It's true.
I mean, look at this. I mean, he's got more. I mean, here we are. We're both in green. He's rocking black and white. Yeah. Label on the hat, just off to the side slightly.
Just a bit. Just a bit.
Yeah.
The Murphys
as well.
You got to have the Murphys. No, it's a bit chilly here. It's like the Midlands here in central Illinois. It's probably 45 degrees and misting rain. It looked very, very like a couple of the matches that I saw today. So
I'll work out what it's about. I think it's probably actually warmer here than it is there then at the minute.
Yeah, we had sunshine today. It was sort of a jackets off, sunglasses out today.
Really?
For us, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably closer to about 60 in
Yeah,
freedom
it was
units.
62.
Wow.
62 for us
No kidding.
today.
Yeah, I'm dead on 45. Little rain.
Oh, I'll swap.
Yeah. You guys would be more comfortable in this, I would think.
I definitely would.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I decided to go for a walk this afternoon to it's a local kind of family-run sort of little chain of bakeries, and I got to like mid-afternoon. I was just getting warm and kind of bored of what I was doing in my surroundings and stuff. So I decided to go for a couple of mile walk and treat myself to a bake and then a shake as well. So it's just this excuse to get out there and sort of looking up. I'm like, I feel like I'm being attacked by sunlight and outside and pollen and all this.
What is that strange yellow orb in the sky?
Why is my skin warm? I don't like it.
Why's my skin turning red?
It's peeling. Radiation.
Yeah. The internet's a weird place.
What have you guys been up to anyway? I feel like I'm out of the loop a little bit.
We've had some
Major
distraction.
Central.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I would like to have deluded myself to make it the trip over for Maker Central this year.
You're definitely on the will be missed list.
Thank you very much. That makes me feel good.
Oh, it's always next year, hopefully.
Are you cats both going?
I definitely am.
I'm still on the fence.
Hmm.
Still on the fence.
Well,
It's a
we've
bit
got
painful. Spiky fence.
It's the anti-vandal paint that's a problem as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Saying that, I was fated today. I kind of thought, that's a scrapwood challenge, and I've got a pile of scrapwood. And if you do the scrapwood challenge, which has been extended to the 30th of April, you get entry for 35 quid for the entire weekend.
Yeah.
I had this brilliant idea. I don't have time or talent to do it, but I had this brilliant idea. So I thought, I could use some of this scrapwood. I can make something. And I kind of thought, similar to, go big. You had a limit of 20. It had to be scrapwood, and it had to be maximum of 22 inches on the cube. So I was like, I had this brilliant idea, and I thought I could pull it off. Well, I thought I could put myself under enough pressure to be able to kind of, hyper focus it and pull it off. So then this evening, once I sort of sat down, got the laptop set up after dinner, and sat down, thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. It's going to be the thing. It's going to, just jump in with 2 feet, and it closed at 4. This was at 8 o'clock.
Come on.
Yeah. Surely there's enough time between now and the future to invent the time machine enough to go back to put the thing in.
I would think so. See, now that's a good use of a time machine.
The last time I tried that, big cathedral in Paris burnt down. I mean, it's like you got to be
too
careful.
soon, Andy. Too soon.
No, it wasn't me. No, it was just the machine. I mean, no.
Oh my. Okay. Okay, hold on. You guys are shaking me up here.
Was that an attempted segue there, Andy? To
maybe, maybe. I've been taking lessons from Steve.
It out. Yeah,
it works.
If a segue falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it, is it even a segue? Something like
that. Or is it one of those bikes that you? Is it one of those kind of segues?
I mean, that's it's a funny word, isn't it? I mean, you segue the bike, SEGWAY. Yep. Seg. Segway. Brilliant.
Mm.
Segway to make an intermission. SEGUE. It's like
It's French.
But-
French.
there's a great Instagram account called Backdoor Johnny.
Oh yeah.
And it's a guy who he basically plays two people, kind of face to face, kind of, it's kind of, one's facing one, one's facing the other. One guy is sort of taking notes on a clipboard. The other guy is coming up with the pronunciation and spelling of words in the English language. And it is hilarious.
Really?
It's absolutely hilarious. It's definitely kind of worth sort of watching, because they're mostly reels. It's just like,
What was it again? Backdoor
Backdoor
Johnny.
Johnny. I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link at some point.
Definitely better waiting for a link than trying to find that on Google, I think.
Yeah, true.
You might get interesting things if you just randomly Google it.
Safe search on.
Never can tell. Never can tell.
Oh,
I can tell this is going to be another one of those episodes where we get to the end of it and our faces are just aching.
Yeah.
Well, we should have known, Jamie, inviting Andy back on for a second time.
Inviting trouble back on, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hey, what could go wrong? It's Birkey, right? It's all good.
We do have to address something straight off the bat, though, Andy.
Okay, have it.
Because we obviously, people know you and have seen that you were coming on tonight. So we have had more than one person say, tell him that we need to get more fake in it because we miss it.
Boy, that's funny because wasn't too long ago that came up. I hadn't thought about it in a while. And I forget, it was something Jimmy said or something, but I went back and listened to an episode, and it was a bit of a mess because of audio and poor internets and, guys being all over the country and the world. But man, that was fun. We had a lot of fun.
That was
content as good as that. It does. The audio quality doesn't matter when you get content as good as that.
Yeah, well,
it's like listening to the Goon Show. If you go back and listen to the Goon Show from
right.
many years ago, or the early kind of Monty Python stuff, their audio was pretty rubbish too. But
yeah, that's true.
Timeless humor.
Yeah, that was a different collection of people, and everybody was coming at things from different angles, and somehow it worked.
I'm just hearing the little sort of meandering stories from everyone's past and stuff was just lovely to listen to.
Yeah, thank you. There was a couple of things that popped out of that I will never forget. If you remember the episode where David Welder, my dad passed away, and David Welder called me midweek and said, "Hey, if you're ready, let's get into this," which was just sort of the MO of the whole thing is, pretty much nothing was out of bounds. And so I said, yeah, I can do it. And I said, just cover me. If I go sideways, just be ready to cover me. And he said, yeah, I definitely will. And so we talked through it, and there was Dad and my relationship was complicated for sure. But a few months later, I was at Maker Faire in San Francisco, and a young kid came up and basically asked for an autograph that he liked the show. He was probably 10, and I said, "Oh man, that's awesome!" So we talked for a little bit, and I signed something, and then out of the corner of my eye, I kind of got this weird. I could sense that his dad had been there, and I had made eye contact with him, but he kind of was lingering after the kid had moved on to get real people's autographs. And the guy stood there, and so I looked at him, and he said, I just want to let you know that I just lost my dad, and I've listened to that episode about 3 times this week, and it's helped me. a lot. And I started crying and he started crying, and I stood up and I just gave him a big hug, and we just sat there, and everybody else, we're in the middle of a pizza place, that's just going crazy. And yeah, but that was, like I say, it wasn't polished, and it wasn't always the best in the world, but man, it touched some people, and that was super cool.
Not to throw any shade, but you touched me with it. It's that kind of, it was part of what, those kind of journeys of like life affirming things and experiences that, have shaped who you are as a person and how you treat others, and hearing, you and David, especially the way you had that kind of deep connection, and to be able to share, struggles and difficulties and, times where you've overcome those or that you face those head on and things. That's, that was times in my life where I needed to hear that as well. There's things that you've both given to me in that sense that have been there for me. And when I've had struggles and things, it was really stuff that I needed as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's the most rewarding, when you're hearing that 5-6 years later after the last episode, it's, that you made something good, and like I say, it wasn't polished. It goes back to the thing of, you just make stuff, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
perfect timing there with.
Well done. Yeah. Well said. Thank you, Alan. That's I couldn't say it any better than that. It's
exactly. Yeah. That's honest will always beat polished for the audio listeners.
In a lot of the maker world, it's a race to be polished, and to be, accepted by as many people as possible sometimes. And, I just, there's a core of people that it's just about our connection. Our primary connection is making stuff, and the tactile involvement that we have in that, and that creative thing that a lot of people in the general population don't understand. That's our base layer. And I really appreciate the people in the community like you cats that go, yeah, that's our base layer, but now we can get real about other stuff, right? Just straight up.
Yeah, definitely.
And to me, that's just the visceral sort of connection that, look at in our lifetimes where, we couldn't have done this 20 years ago. Or,
absolutely,
30 years ago. And here we are, and how blessed are we?
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, the way we are able now to, on a daily basis, communicate with people who are on a similar wavelengths, who are maybe similarly tainted, maybe neurodivergent. You could put a whole bunch of other adjectives in there, but just finding community, but that is spread so wide. Yet
finding our weird people,
such a great connection with. Yeah,
there it is. it's I don't know. I mean, it's very odd in my world. This is a pretty conservative, Midwestern town I live in, and I'm not from here, and I'm weird, and it's crazy because people from here who found out more about me from things online, now have a better connection with me than that we had before.
Yeah.
Because they realize that there is a place where we can be, and this is one of them right here, that we can be entirely ourselves, and we don't have to apologize to anybody who doesn't get it.
Absolutely. I think that's part of that kind of visceral connection that we've got, especially when it comes to things like our kind of struggles or challenges that we face, whether it's, challenges on a project or personal challenges or things like that. I think because we've all got that kind of common ground, we've got the same struggles and frustrations. We've talked before about, people who've done videos and showed their failures and mistakes and then how they've corrected them. And I think that's, whether it's that kind of thing in content or whether it's just that conversation of, phone call or an instant message or something saying, "Oh, dude, I've just tried doing this and it's failed," and you might respond back with something like, "Oh, have you tried this, or have you spoken to so and so," or
Right.
"Oh," that kind of thing. It's that kind of deep shared connection of of facing problems or of overcoming struggles and things.
Yeah, and turning into them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think at our core, we're hackers.
Yeah.
The world is our hack, and
Absolutely.
I mean, that's, to me, with the fire in the shop, that's been one of the unsuspecting things that have really popped up over the past 3 months, is between tools and supplies and skills retained, there was a space to go to fix a lot of problems, and that's gone. So, I've literally gone out the door thinking, already in my mind, doing the math of something that I need to put together, and I'm going to go out and do my mad scientist work. And I get out the door and I look up and there's this burnt out hulk of a building that I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to have to go buy something because you can't do it.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of kind of merit in that we often forget about. And I know that some of the stuff I've been doing the last couple of days, kind of chipping away, working towards stuff for Make It Central, solving problems with stuff I have right here, right now, has meant I can kind of keep moving. But then when I've had to nip out and buy things, it's that kind of, you feel like you're just tripping over yourself because every kind of problem is then, can I fix this with something I already have, or do I have to go out and buy something?
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's got to be a completely different problem altogether if you know that everything is going to have to be fresh from scratch.
Absolutely, that's absolutely it. And it's kind of good, I think, to be reminded of, let's say, a guy or girl, they get into college, they grow up in a household, just regular style, don't pay attention, go to college, get a job, corporate job, get a house. And then all of a sudden they're like, uh-oh, now I need to maintain this thing. There's things that I need to do, but I have no clue how to do them or what to do them with or what these tools do. Or in a limited sense, my world right now is even worse because I know all those things, but I don't have any of them. So it's like a double whammy of, yeah, I know exactly what I could do, what would be really cool or whatever. I don't know, man. It's
next level on that as well, because that kind of frustration of going, right, well, I need X, Y, or Z from the store, and then you go and get that thing, and then it must be more common now to get back home and then realize there was one other thing you should have picked up while you were there.
Right. Yeah.
That's maybe one in 10 visits for me.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. I swear, it is absolutely nuts. Or you realize that you don't have a spanner.
Yeah.
The right size. Well, you've had the right size for 2-3 decades. Well, you don't now. So now what are you going to do? And it's very...
Should we just, for the benefit of perhaps somebody that's been hidden under a rock or is maybe finding the maker community for the first time, or how they're doing it through Maker's Waffle, I don't know. For the benefit of kind of sort of listeners, a couple of months ago now,
February 1st.
So February the 1st this year, you were unfortunate enough to experience probably most makers' worst making nightmare, which was the complete and catastrophic loss of your workshop.
Yes.
Everything in it.
Absolutely. Maybe a 2 to 3% recovery rate on that. So, no.
That interests me. I'm sorry, I'm going to butt in. What sort of things survived? I mean, I've seen the pictures. That was a hot fire, a big fire.
Yeah, it was very hot fire.
Yeah, and obviously the nature of your making, there's a lot of wood and a lot of chemicals, which of course.
Right. Which the chemicals were the start of the fire. That's kind of the embarrassing thing I want to get out on the table right away is I was attempting to dry out some boiled linseed oil in some sawdust. And over the course of 10 hours or so, it spontaneously combusted and took off in a rage. And so, at some level, you're a bit embarrassed because, you should, I have more respect for chemicals now than I ever have. I've always felt like I was pretty aware of the dangers, but the right conditions let this one get away from me. So
complacency is. I'm not suggesting you were complacent, but complacency is something that has a very, very thin incline to the wedge.
Yeah.
We all, I think everyone suffers from complacency to some degree or another. For some people, it's that they've got to the thick part of the wedge. But I think for many of us, we are on the thin part of the wedge. We're so used to doing things certain ways. It's while I was teaching, I would often, if I'm doing a demonstration with electricity, I would often hot swap rather than turning off the power supply. Mm. And that's not always a good idea if you're using, for example, a 3,000 volt supply.
Probably not.
But you get it's speed. You want continuity of this in this case of teaching, the continuity of the discussion from the demonstration. You don't want to be kind of go, right, let me just turn it off and make sure it's all discharged before doing it. You kind of go, well, as long as I don't touch that metal bit, I'll be fine.
I think as well
that you get that little shock. But
I think it's also worth saying that because obviously something like that is it's a very definitive yes, you could switch the supply off.
Yeah.
Versus and he's always been one for talking about safety and things as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's not like you've ever been cavalier about trying bailo out or anything like that. You've always kind of been talking about this kind of stuff and shop safety in general.
Yeah.
So that was something that you couldn't really have just turned the power supply off. That was.
Oh no, I totally. I mean,
I think it's worth also saying that
comparisons.
It is sometimes these things, even if you are doing things in sort of safe practices and things like that, can still get away from you as well.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's a fine line between being safe and being paranoid.
Mm.
Because like the fire inspector told me, he said, you've probably done this exact same process 1,000 times, and I said, absolutely. And he said, I see it all the time. It's just getting the right conditions and
you can only mitigate risk so far.
Right. It's I wish I could say there was a 12-step method that I could put out to the maker community that says these things will keep you safe. But to me, that's kind of like cooking. There's no recipe. You just have to be mindful every time that you do everything. And whether that's, how you push fabric through a sewing machine, or putting something through a table saw, or dealing with electricity or chemicals. It's you need to be fully involved in what you're doing. And and I think that that's a good space to be for creativity too. You guys are probably familiar with the work they're doing in California on flow state. Have you guys been aware of that at all? Kind of a new neuroscience that basically
flow. Yeah.
It's not new. It's sort of re-emerging. Put it that way. I forget who it was back in the day. Yeah. But it's that idea of just being completely and totally involved in what you're doing, and and that's it's sort of the same level of attention.
And it's kind of obviously not necessarily related to kind of your instant, but kind of having that willingness to maybe look at one's own practice in terms of, I can't get in a flow state right now, therefore I am not going to.
Right.
Last week I was I had a delivery. I get my groceries delivered, and the delivery came Wednesday morning about 9:15, and I started going through the sort of first of all there were some substitutions. I'm like, well, these substitutions don't seem right, and I started going through. I'm sure I didn't order that. And it became really obvious that it was kind of like very quickly that there was only about half of the stuff was stuff that I'd ordered, and I'd really checked because the similar thing had happened the week before, but only for a couple of items. And I've been worrying about the kind of the online kind of sort of system a few times, because there's a few times when I'm thinking, I'm sure I ordered something and it didn't arrive, or something extra. I thought I'd taken something off that a few weeks ago I thought I'll get that, and then I decided not to. And then it comes, I think, a little bit of an issue with the app type thing. Half of it, I sent back half of it, because you can kind of return stuff. If things aren't in good condition, or if you suddenly decide you don't want it, you can send it back. And I thought, this is absolute clip. So then I came in, put the stuff that needed to go in the freezer away, and then kind of phoned customer services. So I said, what I ordered, and I really checked the email, my list rather, my grocery list last night, didn't match what was delivered. And the delivery driver had sort of said, I've had a couple of these today, not quite on this scale, but I've had a couple of people kind of sort of say things like that. So I thought, okay, there's a problem. So I called them up. They said, can we order number? So there was an order number on the receipt, and there was an order number on the email. So I gave them the order number from the email, because I had that open when I was phoning them up. I said, this is your order for the 16th of May.
What?
So I had spent hours. How I'd managed to do this, I'd spent hours the night before sort of checking my sort of menus and sort of deciding what I was going to cook with. And I put the order in the 16th of May. And the delivery that I had was the one that I'd auto-filled. Because when you book a new slot, you can auto-fill with your last order. So I just auto-filled with the last order. So it was the order that I auto-filled. So it was the same order as I'd had 5 weeks ago. I was just like, this was the second. It was the second thing that had gone wrong already that morning. It was just like, and then I was due at 10 o'clock to go up to the men's shed with one of the other kind of members to do a pile of work, because I wanted to sort of trying to push the organisation work. And he turned up at the house, and I said, it's not a good day. And I always sort of said, we got there. I said, I'm not going to be using the table saw today. Just so you know, I'm not doing anything on the table saw. I'm going to stay clear away from that finger killer, because I can't get into I'm just not in the right mind state for this. So just so you know.
That's one hell of a skill to have, is to recognise when it is a good plan to stop.
Yes. Sometimes, of course, it's not so easy to recognise. And I'm sure some of us got the scars to prove that too.
Yeah, that is, and you know, I think on that same line, if you've had to go all day long, that same thing applies of when to set things down.
Yeah,
just put them down, and turn the key on the shop, and you know, go have something else going on. So
yeah, definitely.
It's tricky, of course, if you've been working and you've got stuff covered in boiled linseed oil to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. So
Tricky thing. So boiled linseed oil. There's been a few videos lately, kind of going around on YouTube about that. A bit of controversy between a few different makers on there, but we'll stay away from that. It is an issue. It's on the cans. It's not on the cans just for the sake of it. It is something.
Right.
So if you're working with boiled linseed oil, folks, make sure you know what to do with it once you've done with it.
Yeah, call me. Just IM me. I'll walk you through it.
I was going to say, surely that's at this point now. You've been down every possible avenue of tearing yourself to pieces, trying to work out what you could have done differently. Or
absolutely,
yeah,
it's a very strange thing. You're absolutely right, because it's very much like a grief of a loss of like a relative or something. You go through these stages of blaming yourself and being angry about it, and if I've learned anything through the losses I've experienced in my life is you got to allow yourself that progression, because you don't get to skip any steps. You just don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but also the recognition of what a entirely personal space that was for me. The thing that tore me up probably more than anything was Georgie, my pseudo nephew, who's 13 now. He's grown up in that shop, and so the morning after the fire, or the afternoon after the fire, he got off of school and his mom brought him over, and I came out of the house and he was looking into the shop, and he was crying. And he told his dad, as he was crying, he said, "This was my favorite place in the whole world." And
oh man,
I tell you what, he'll tear you up.
Yeah.
So, but he's progressed, and he's working on the architectural drawings for the new shop.
Nice.
The foam pit and the fireman's pole is under negotiation, but those are key elements of his design.
Is he going to let you have them though?
No, absolutely not. He's always already making plans for when all the tools are his. That's going to be his space. So
Rightly so.
Yeah. So, but he's all anxious to be involved in the rebuild once we get permits. Yeah. We think we might have permits sorted now. Maybe the end of this week or first part of next, to get the demolition done. We're in an older part of town here, and we're pretty compact in here. Unlike a lot of American homes, we're kind of more like the UK. In this local neighborhood, we're pretty tight in here, and so we have permitting to have done, and they need to test for asbestos and things like that, which there's none out there, but they still have to test for it.
Yeah, of course.
All going through the bureaucracy of that and lining that up with costs from the insurance company and all the stuff that is adulting that we all hate. So
yeah, very much so.
So presumably then the 2 or 3%, you say there's no asbestos out there, the 2 or 3% that didn't burn was not asbestos.
Was not what?
Asbestos.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
just going back,
Basically,
I distracted. What did survive?
just steel. There's one of the things. Well, there was also the fire blew out a window, so it tracked in a pretty linear progression across the shop. So there were pockets of areas that were pretty heavily damaged, but not temperature wise as bad. So one of the things that my wife's dad was a farmer, and he had a big 8-inch vise, and that's been in the shop for forever. And that I think I can restore. So that's one thing that's, there's a few things like that. My grandfather's hammer, my titanium hammerhead, I found it and it wasn't too bad. So I got a new handle for it, and, just very, very little, but, and at some point, it all becomes they're calling it a total loss, and that's pretty darn close. So we lost the mobile art unit.
You did, of course, yeah. Because that was the other thing. That it wasn't just a shop, was it? It was the fact that your cars were parked right next to it.
Yeah. So both cars were on a flatbed truck that day, and so we've had to get new vehicles, and it's been quite the upheaval.
It was a lucky find, though, getting an almost identical mobile art unit.
Crazy good. We pulled into a lot, and my wife, for the past 3 cars that she's had, have all been Volkswagen diesels, turbo diesels, and we just like those cars. And we pulled into a lot, and there was a identical turbo diesel station wagon and a mobile art unit, both on the same lot, and we said we'll take them both. Yep. One time, wrote one check for them. So.
Someone's clearly lining something up for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because over here, those Euro style vans, city vans, are hard to find.
I'll bet, yeah. They're about a third of the size of a normal car over there, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, they are. That's one of the reasons I buy them, because they're good on gas and they fit anywhere. So
yeah,
I've never liked the big trucks and things that a lot of guys around here will buy huge trucks. And
yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon we probably best stay away from, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Being British. Yeah. Yeah, we don't quite understand that, or most of us.
Well, it's interesting. I being in Europe early on in my life, I got exposed to the smaller ones. But then when I was working in the Caribbean, the heavier trucks, because everything was so steep, they would really tear themselves up. Where especially down there, the Japanese trucks. They were smaller and lighter, and they just didn't. They were better. They were more durable in that environment. So you start driving them there, and then you bring back old habits, right? Once you move back to the States.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the right tool for the job in that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, if I need a bigger truck, there's rentals available that are easy to get, and literally 4 or 5 blocks over, there's a place where I can rent one and do it for the day, and good to go.
And you can always put the mobile art unit in the back as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Just bump it right up inside.
It's a question for the kind of the rebuild then. As obviously you've got an opportunity to do things a different way if you choose to.
Blank slate.
blank slate, but are you going to stick with the same power tool manufacturer, or are you going to jump ship to someone else?
Well, I tell you, it has been a weird opportunity that not many people are afforded, because as now I'm starting to do lighter work. Now that I'm aging, that's been on my radar. Is not that I'm not fit and good to go at this point, but it'll degenerate from here. Let's be honest. So
for somebody that's in their late 90s, I mean, you're doing great.
It's all about drinking orange juice. Every month or so, I have an orange juice, and it works miracles.
So when you said you've always got a screwdriver in your hand, that was what you meant.
Yes, it is. I'm starting to get too hot here. You guys got me under the hot lamps here, so I had to lose the skull cap. But yeah, I did start to think about what changes I would make, and physically, because our land is small, I have to have the same footprint, the physical footprint of the shop. So it's going to be the same building, and with the exception of instead of a 7-foot ceiling, I'm going to knock it up to either a 9 or a 10-foot ceiling.
Nice.
And that should give me a little more leeway in what I can build and storage and things like that. So, and then of course I will try to insulate it better and make it a little more energy efficient, and probably move to a mini split electric type of heating and air conditioning instead of gas, which served me well out there. But, I'd been kind of thinking about that for the last couple of years. And, now it's
super efficient as well, the mini splits.
Right. And around here in the summer, it's not only the cooling for the air conditioner, but removing the humidity out of it.
As well, yeah.
So that would be one of the big ones. As far as tooling goes, we're not 100% sorted with the insurance company yet. But if I have the opportunity, I'll probably go back to the saw stop table saw again, as sort of a looking forward into the future. Being
it's extra safety, isn't it?
Right, exactly. So, but one thing I have, I'm super happy to kind of put out there for the first time is the Shaper company out of San Francisco. I've worked with them for a lot of years and worked on their user interface testing. I think you guys know. They got a hold of me early on, like within days, and said, "Don't worry about your Shaper. We're gonna replace it." And which was just super stunning to me.
Got your back.
Yeah.
And truly good people that want to do right, and way beyond. And so they said, "Look, just let us know." And so a few weeks ago, I got a hold of them and I said, "Well, I think I'm ready." Well, just you can't see it here, but there's a stack of boxes up 6 feet here. They sent me their entire catalog, everything they make, and
Nice.
And they said, "Look, just go." And I said, "Well," they said, just do it. We're just happy to contribute. And so I think that will become. It was already a pretty significant. It was working its way into my workflow more and more. But now I'm realizing that I have the opportunity to really key on that, and eliminate some tooling that I had before.
Of course, yeah.
I don't need to replace. And so that's kind of been this karmic result that from their generosity, it's really give me the impetus to prioritize that, and I'm very comfortable doing. I was already doing it on my own. I just didn't realize it, and now all the tools that it can replace it can replace them, literally all the way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the. I mean, obviously we talked about it a little bit earlier as well, but that kind of that opportunity to not have to replace things that you just wouldn't throw out, you might not use,
Absolutely.
but you don't want to get rid of. And yeah, I think there's merit in just picking the things that you know you need or you know that you want.
Yeah, and I had a good amount of tools that I had purchased in the heat of the battle, and not that they worked, most of them, for that, but then they're so sort of out of bounds that you don't use them very much, and,
of course, yeah.
So I'm thinking that I had some things stored off site that will kind of fit that same mold. So I'm kind of thinking that here in town they have a free tool library that
nice.
Is for a lower income part of town, but anybody can join, and I think it's $50 a year or something to join. So I'm thinking of taking a lot of those tools over there, and then I can rent my own tools from them, and plus somebody can get some use out of it. So
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be for the things I would use on common on a common basis, but the stuff that's I guess what I'm saying is I've got a different perspective on a lot of tools that I think as a community we tend to put a lot of emphasis on tools, and we don't need them all. We just don't. We don't need them. They're
Absolutely,
nice.
Yeah.
They're super nice, but we don't need them near as much as I thought we did.
Yeah. There's quite a few bits like that are gathering dust in my workshop for the same thing of, bright ideas for what I was going to do, and then buy the tool and then use it that once and go, maybe I'm not going to do this, but there's no point in me selling it now because I might want to do it again in the future.
I'm not commenting on this part of the conversation. Not going to.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah. I'm just going to say I feel attacked. But
I've got it right around the corner here. I've got an industrial sewing machine that I've had for 4 years, and we've made the decision today. I gotta go ahead and get rid of it because I'm just not going to fix it up, and we need the space, and it's.
I did exactly the same. I got a 3-phase motor from my old gym. And I had this bright idea. It was going to be a disc sander. It was going to do X, Y, and Z. And 3.5 years ago, maybe. And I reached out to a couple of friends the other day and just said, "Look, I'm going to bring it to makers. One of you can take it away. I'm not going to do anything with it in any sensible time, and I know you can both make use of it. So just save me from myself, please."
There it is, man. I mean, I think that is probably 50% of the readjustment I've made in the last 3 months. Is just that kind of thing. That, and another thing was just the amount of unfinished projects.
Yeah.
I really want to be better about either finishing or tossing them. And it doesn't, I still think one of my strengths is trying anything. But if you don't finish it, it's just rubbish, you know, and
Mm.
you don't delude yourself that it's going to miraculously finish itself.
I think we're all kind of subject to that sunken cost fallacy, aren't we? Especially with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's part of our wiring, don't you? Partially.
Again,
absolutely.
I'm British, but I'm claiming the fifth on that one.
You can't, wait a minute, you can't do that. It's not your fifth, dude.
We pick tea over Americans.
All right, fine.
I'm not going to say anything on that one either.
that was our decision, wasn't it? Is we'll let the Americans have themselves, and we'll stick with tea.
I thought they threw the tea in the harbour.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, we asked for it. Oh yeah.
So going back, you're gonna raise your ceiling. You're gonna just try and have less tools. So you kind of try and
I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Are you going to make any other sort of big changes in terms of, say, layout? Because if I remember rightly, you mostly had you had a central bench and a fairly reasonable sized space to be able to put pieces that you were working on the floor.
Yeah.
Kind of maintain that with everything kind of going around.
Yeah, I think that's basically what I've thought so far is I think I will have that same basic layout just because of the variety of things that I work on. It's hard to I guess it's also pointed out to me that I'm not a woodworker, in the classic sense. I work on so many different things. There was when I did my inventory, I swear to God, it had to look like it was an absolute psychopath in there, because there was my pizza oven was in there. I had sewing material in there, clay stuff like mad, gold leaf stuff. It was just all over the place, and you're writing this stuff down going, man, no one is gonna believe me when I tell them that I'm into all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a big kids playpen kind of thing, wasn't it? For
absolutely.
Like I said, do today.
Yeah. Well, it's a sanity place. It's where I go to escape the real world, and there was my own little weird place in there, unapologetically.
Yeah, it's the dojo for mental health.
Yeah, and we also we realized how much time we spent with Georgie in there and his sister and their dad, and sometimes making stuff and sometimes just that's where we would hang out, and someone would roll up the barbecue, and after I showed Georgie how to barbecue shrimps one time, he was always one to go grab some shrimp out of the fridge and toss them on there, and we just did that a lot, and and again, that kind of having that open space that most people would use very clinically, that open space solved a lot of that kind of flexibility issues for me.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think flexibility in a shop is something that I think is often underrated and not necessarily really appreciated until you've actually sort of tried it.
right.
The men's shed that I go to when I first started going back in September, they put a lot of relatively fixed benching in, and everything was, most things, not all, but most things were kind of, they had a place. And it's a relatively small sort of shop. It's 24 by 12, I think. And so it was tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But they had, they've got a fair set of kits to be able to sort of go in there. And a couple of things were on mobile, but literally only a couple. And it was just like, that mobile stuff really works. Can we make more of it? And we're now at the situation where we've only got one more thing to build. We've got one to finish and one to build. And the one to finish is Mighty Saw stand with some wings. The stand's there and it's mobile, and we need to put the wings on. And we need a lumber cart in there that will take half sheet of ply, and will take kind of the bits of wood that often just get dumped under benches or alongside benches. And it's quite interesting, kind of sort of how some of the sort of guys working there kind of go, particularly when sort of things are sort of pushed away to the sides, and go, wow, haven't we got so much space in here? Isn't it great that we can move things out and do the things we want and have the flexibility of space? It's just
right.
So good.
It's one of the things that I've never really gotten a lot of industrial level tools like a lot of people have. Very nice, very, very nice. But to me, it's all about being flexible and being adaptable to whatever I'm working on.
Yeah, I think particularly in a compact space.
Right.
I mean, if it takes somebody like Jimmy, who's got several very large workshops, and that ability to kind of go, okay, we've got 5 bandsaws set up there, each with a different blade, and there's still plenty of room to go around it. It's a very different end of the spectrum, isn't it? In terms of
it really is.
Yeah, even though he again is very kind of flexible in terms of what he makes and what he does. Very much again a maker rather than a woodworker.
Right.
But he's got the benefit of good amount of space.
Right. Yeah. And I will have to say that part of it is my own inability to do anything remotely production efficiency, because I can't process it in my head. If I make it twice, I'm done. I check out. I want to do something else. Yeah. And so to me, it's basic tooling that can do basic things. One thing only. I'm not a big believer in hybrid tools that can be manipulated to do 12 different things. I feel like most of the time those tools don't do any of the 12 very well. Yeah. So I like single use tooling, and I don't know, and I'm getting kind of I got really fond of working with clay over the past 6 months or so. It was Carl really pushed me for years to try to do something sculptural, and I was afraid of it, to be honest, and finally had to go, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think every time I've picked up clay, I've gone in with the same kind of trepidation of, I'm not artistic enough to do this, or I'm not this or that or the other, and tried to talk myself out of it. And by the end, I'm just like, more, I want to do more.
Right, absolutely. So,
it is a really fun material to work with.
It is very tactile, very, you can feel it changing with the warmth of your hands, and okay, now I need to do it to, build structure, and now I need it a little warmer to get detail, and that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think once you start adding in like armature and things as well, that kind of, it's knowing the rules that you can break, isn't it? When we're all kids playing with Play-Doh or other brands are available, but playing with that kind of stuff, or even bread or anything like that, where we kind of, it's a very similar kind of tactile, shapeable thing.
Yeah.
And then finding out that, hang on, you can put stuff inside it and wrap it around things, and then you can, all that kind of stuff. It's another world of possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like that unquantifiable relationship that you get with the material like that. The malleability and the temperature and, everything that it's just a completely different, I've heard welders and steel guys talk about that, but to me, that's like they're talking in Spanish. So I can't, I can catch every 10th word or 20th word, but I'm not understanding it. But that involvement it's I don't know, something to it, which kind of reminds me, Jamie, that you brought up cooking. That's been my since I've been limited on what I can make. Cooking has really taken a step forward again in my world of. That's really been a creative outlet for me the last 3 months.
It is making, isn't it? It's
yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I made ever in my life with my mom was cooking in the kitchen, and starting with raw materials and coming up with a soup or a stew or a cookies or jam. It was all there. A super good way to start, I think.
And again, it's understanding materials and that kind of thing, isn't it? It's the gateway that I think we all get with making. We'll decide that we want soft bread and hard cheese and salad and whatever else to make ourselves a sandwich. We've got those kind of elements in, and then next thing we've built a table or a workbench or something else.
Right.
Not out of bread and cheese and stuff, obviously.
Oh, because I was thinking, well, you're kind of onto something here.
A workbench you can eat at the end of the day.
Doesn't get better than that. Well, it's for table saw tacos.
Yeah, but they don't cut the MDF very well.
I didn't want to bring that up, actually. I mean, I did wonder of asking you, have you been managing for table saw tacos?
Do tacos taste the same when they're not on a table saw?
No, they don't. They're usually consumed after considerable hours in the shop, and they taste like heaven. So I'm very anxious to get a table saw front and center in the shop again, mainly just to eat off of. But
yeah, I was going to say, it's purely a serving platter, isn't it? Rather than
just remember, if you're going to get a saw stop, if you use the table saw to cut the food, make sure you turn off the braking system.
Yes. Yeah. Believe me, I know that one.
I can imagine that would get really messy trying to cut Mexican food with a table saw.
I would think it would be all over the ceiling. Yeah. Hence the reason why I'm raising the ceiling.
Not if you keep the crown guard in place.
Exactly.
Keep the crown guard in place. It's only going to go that high.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, surely there's got to be a future Colin Furze video in there or something, isn't it? For making art on the ceiling of a workshop using a table saw and food. He's already done it with the spoons and the cake years ago. So,
hey, did you guys used to have at banks the pneumatic tubes where you would drive up and the pneumatic tube would come down and you'd put your money in there and it would shoot up? We're working on that sort of concept to install down to the Mexican restaurant down the street here.
Firing burritos through.
Absolutely.
There was a video you might want to check out. Are you familiar with Tom Scott?
I am, yeah.
So a couple of months ago, he did a video which I think was in Canada, and it was talking about how the local hospital gets hold of their radionuclides for sort of imaging for patients.
Okay.
The hospital itself doesn't have the facility to generate the radionuclides. Most hospitals don't. So because you generally need some sort of reactor of some sort. But there is a reactor available. I can't remember how far away it is. It's a mile or two, maybe 3. I don't know. It's a fair distance, but not. Yeah, they're not next door to each other. Anyway, in order to once you've got this radionuclide, you have to use it within a quite a limited amount of time. Otherwise, because of the half-life, it's gonna drop its activity rate and it's not going to be of any use for the imaging. So they have to get it from the reactor to the hospital, to the the medical physics department, and into the patient as quickly as possible. Now, what you don't want to be doing, of course, is driving this radionuclide through downtown Toronto or whatever town it was. I can't remember what city it was. So they have one of those vacuum chutes underground.
No way.
So in the preparation room at the reactor, where they've prepared the sample, they pop it into the tube, press a button, whooshes away to the hospital, to the medical physics department, arrives. They can then set up the kind of the injection from it. So they take the vial out, fill up a syringe, put it in a nice little lead apron on the syringe, and take it through into the next room where the patient is ready to go. So I want to check. I'll find that out. I'll find it and post the link into the show notes, and I'll send you the.
Sounds like a more sensible option than my immediate thought of railgun.
Absolutely, railgun. That's the first thing that comes into my mind for almost everything, though.
Need to get something somewhere quickly. Railgun, yes.
Railgun. Andy, that reminds me. I also just saw a video of an African organization that is trying to help with getting especially blood to hospitals in remote areas quickly because they just can't maintain a supply in these remote hospitals. And they've come up with drones that are reliable enough that they can receive an order, package it, and get it in a drone in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And launch it. And then they catch the drones in nets when they get back. But basically they'll get to a location and parachute, drop it, a parachute opens, and they run it inside and do it. And I wish I had a reference for you, but I don't. But I was dead fascinated. To me, it's like that is makers doing things that change the world.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah, that stuff's fascinating. I always like to see that kind of thing happen, especially in those situations where the people, they just don't have a lot of opportunity, and if you can save people's lives just by that type of thinking, it's just amazing.
And you just know it's going to be someone's had this fantastic idea of just using a toy that they bought themselves, and then gone, actually there's a really good application for this that would be super helpful for a big group of people.
Right. Yeah.
It's thinking that outside the box. I mean, that's what kind of it's what engineers amongst other people do. It's solving a problem. And sometimes the trick isn't necessarily to solve the problem; it's to identify the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Why is the mortality rate so high outside of a certain radius from a population center? Well, they need blood.
Yeah.
How do we get them blood?
Yeah.
It's just, on a macro scale, it's the same type of thinking that we do, identifying problems, cause and effect, and try to lineally progress through those.
I think that's a very good point, actually, because I think that's one of the skills that makers especially tend to be really good at, is that kind of pattern spotting.
Right.
Of, like, here's a situation, is this the consequence, or is this something else?
Yeah, I mean, I know in some of the stuff that I've made in the past, you just have to consider everything. You have to consider seismic load and abuses and all of that. All of that has to come into play, and it has to be right from the beginning. So to really sit down and make a list of what are those parameters that have to be addressed.
Yeah, I think there's definitely it's another tally on the list there for the kind of neurodivergence sort of mindset being hugely useful in that sense.
Yeah.
Going down all the little avenues and rabbit holes of, well, what about this, or what if this really outreach kind of weird situation might happen,
and you know, for me, I think you guys would be hip on this. Being aware of skill sets in the community that I don't have. I find that I am more useful because I have people that I can reach out to and say, hey, you know, I'm thinking of doing this, you know, with this skill that you have, is this possible? And, you know, and that to me is really fascinating.
I think all three of us have been, I think all three of us have been accused of that kind of thing before, of being people who someone might come to find out who to speak to.
Right, exactly. I mean, like I say, I don't know, but I know people who do. Yeah, and I'll be right back. I'll get back to you. You know, I'm not ashamed.
Skills and interesting people.
Yeah. If he doesn't smell like old cheese, I'll talk to him.
Yeah, sorry about that, Andy.
I was just going to say, a bit of old cheese and some nice pickle and a glass of red wine, and
I do love a good Stilton, I have to admit.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan of blue cheese. Not a fan.
That's really interesting.
A nice strong cheddar. Yeah, nice strong cheddar. I don't mind actually blue cheese if it's something that's been cooked. Yeah, Stilton celery soup. I hate celery. I hate Stilton, but give me a good Stilton celery soup and yummy. But
so, what forced you to try that if you hate the two main ingredients in it?
I tried that. I was away on a call. I was away on a weekend-long, fully accommodated first aid course, and so there was basically, it was take it or leave it. Yeah, there was this 3-course meal in the evening. The kind of housekeeper at the sort of hostel where we were based was an ex-professional cook, chef, and the food was top-notch. I mean, she really did know. She spoiled us in terms of food. So the Saturday evening she brought out kind of it was going to be a 3-course meal, starting with Stilton and celery soup and sort of a nice bit of bread, and it was just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
So it's very much the British politeness that made you try it then.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, being extremely hungry from kind of running around and lying down in streams, getting hypothermia all day, because that was an outdoor first aid course. So it was just like, and lumping people around, because again, outdoor first aid course. It wasn't kind of your regular. Right, okay, just make sure they stay alive and dial 999. Yeah, it wasn't that type of course. So but mostly British politeness and not wanting to look like the odd person who is fussy about his food.
Mm-hmm.
That's what can I say? Yeah, what can I say? But it was absolutely gorgeous. It was delicious. In fact, it's the only part of the meal I can remember.
Oh, that's funny.
I can't remember what the other bits were. They were very nice. It was very, very good food. It was glorious food.
So good you've forgotten it.
Well, I've eaten a fair few meals since then. I was.
That's fair.
It might be over 30 years ago that event happened.
And you've eaten a truckload of Stilton ever since.
I think I've eaten Stilton about once ever since, just to sort of double check that I didn't like it.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe you've got to put some Stilton on a piece of celery, and then maybe the combination will be enough.
No.
I don't think he's buying it, Jamie.
That's not happening. Now, give me a nice baked camembert. or even
Yeah.
better, deep fried brie with a nice raspberry coulis. Yeah.
So middle class, Andy.
True,
Yeah.
True.
We've done fondue a couple of times recently, cheese fondue, and we discovered that we had all the usual bits of stuff that you dip into it, but we also did some broccoli and cauliflower. It's surprisingly fantastic, dipped in melted cheese.
Well, cauliflower cheese. I mean, that's a
That was
classic.
exactly it. We were
Yeah.
like, will this work? Well, of course it'll
And,
work. It's
I mean,
a
yeah,
favourite meal.
What's
It has to
broccoli
work.
other than green cauliflower?
Exactly.
And yeah, I do know that it's different if anyone wants to. But that's what we used to tell the kids when they were younger. Yeah, cauliflower was white broccoli.
Pretty
Because they were
close.
okay with having broccoli. My youngest, their favorite food was broccoli. Still
It's
is, I
just
think.
a slightly different potato, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, face is hurting. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the shop is you've got your design work done on the shop. You're working towards that. You know, kind of roughly that you're going to keep it a similar sort of layout.
Yeah.
You're going to tools have been streamlined. You've had that kind of
Very much so. Basically, I haven't purchased a lot back into tools. The crazy thing is I've had multiple people in the community reach out and go, hey, I've got I'm going to send you a box of stuff that I thought I was going to use and I just haven't, and it's been almost spooky how things have shown up like that, and I need that tool.
Yeah.
It's been very, very weird. And one of the Illinois woodworker groups on Instagram that I'm a part of, they up in Chicago, two of the guys in it drove around to people's shops and said, we're getting stuff in for throwing it in for Birkey. And I got a call and they said, we're coming down. They drove about 3 hours down and had a big American truck full of tools, everything from.
Those Instagram stories were great.
It's just unbelievable. And it's been crazy. You know, again, your mind is focused on using what you have, and they had a very bizarre, eclectic collection of tools, and it's been funny how it's worked out. I got to show you guys this. I don't know if you've seen this. This is.
I think I saw that on Instagram when it was first made.
Oh, this is Nick. Yeah. I think his name is Bertgoltz or something in Chicago.
That's crazy pretty.
Absolutely fascinating.
Is that all wood?
Yeah. So I believe the handle is cherry and the head is walnut. So I don't have the
for the audio listeners, Andy's showing us a kind of a round-headed mallet. For the English listeners, that would be something like a short-handled croquet mallet. And it looks like it is quilted, your buttonhole quilted in the same manner that a Chesterfield sofa.
I was going to say, it looked like a leather
on the entire handle and on the head.
That's gorgeous.
But it's all done on a rotary CNC, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But just, I mean, it'll be a cold day before I ever strike anything with it. But this was in one of the boxes, and a gift card to a supply store, and it's like I hadn't known the guy before that, but just was part of the community and tossed in. And
Wow.
I don't know, stuff like that just, and the work that Daniel Harjud did with the GoFundMe, and Justin Christensen, the Scroll Saw Scribbler, made a bunch of Seymours and put them out, and it's just really, really humbling, the outpouring from the community. Sometimes you think that maybe the community is on to younger people who are prettier and better at the algorithm and everything, and then something like this happens and you realize that was a pretty selfish thought, that this is a great place, and you better appreciate it, because it's rare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's worth also pointing out the fact that you are an absolute pillar of it all. You are there championing everyone. You are everybody's supporter, and you've got time for us all. So to see that, to see us make good on that, making sure that you're all right, it has to be done.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's I don't know, you just try to be positive, and you try to give more than you take, but then every once in a while you get knocked down a bit, and like Daniel Harjud told me, I said I wasn't on board with the GoFundMe, but he says, Birkey, you gotta let people show they care.
Yeah.
And it definitely did that. And it was just, I don't know. You get to the point where all you're doing is stumbling over words, but
it's good karma, Andy. You do wonders for the community. You've done wonders for the community for a long time now. Whether it's from the things that you shared on Faking It, and the laughs you gave on things like the shop stool minute, those sort of little videos. But the number of people I've spoken to over the years and I'm in the same position, who've reached out to you for kind of a bit of advice. What would you do? I still remember one of the sort of first main interactions we had was me asking you what might I do for a finish, and you recommended boiled linseed oil. I'm a bit worried about that.
Just put the rags in the bin. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're sitting there on the other side.
You never mentioned any of that. Yeah.
I didn't know it.
I'm on
so what we're saying is don't listen to Birkey.
Yeah, talk about blame Birkey.
But the number of people being effectively the number of people I've spoken to who have, and varying from people who are kind of really well-known names in the community that thousands of people know, through to people that maybe have a following of just a few hundred on Instagram, and they don't have a YouTube presence perhaps, and the response is always the same. You give more than you take and have taken. You've experienced this year probably every maker's worst nightmare, second worst nightmare. I'm sure we can all think of worse things, but that you had
it's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, you've had a crappy time this year, and if the rest of us can't just kind of sort of band together and give you that helping hand back up, that doesn't say much about us as a community if we're just taking from you and not giving back.
Right.
But that's why we can sit here, Jamie and I, and say without a shadow of a doubt, you are a pillar of the community. You're known worldwide. Well, certainly in America and Britain. Worldwide. I mean, that's how the British and American kind of think about it. Yeah,
there's a few countries where I'm still persona non grata, but
They're your escape plans down the line if you need them.
We said in the pre-chat we wouldn't talk about that, Andy. Yeah.
Dang it. No, it's very yeah, on a karmic level, it feels really. I mean, but it goes back around, see, because now I can't just bounce
Disappear.
out because now I'm reminded how much I owe everybody again. Some more.
So what you're saying is now's the perfect time to say, right, okay, we need more fake in it. We need more shop stall. Give me a minute. We can put our demands in now.
Well, actually, I am trying to make it so that I can spend a day, a weekday, a week making some new content and kind of prioritize that again. So we'll get a few things sorted out here, and hopefully we can do that. It's a goal to get back into it.
Yeah.
So
I think everyone's going to be so eager to see your kind of your Phoenix moment almost. That
yeah,
we're all going to be keen to see that.
It's not an option, guys. That's the whole thing. Is I am not who I am without that capacity to make. And boy, that's a weird realization. It's not what we do, and it's not what we do on Instagram or YouTube. It's who we are. And if you're privileged to have that malady, that curse, we're lucky. I mean, we're just amazingly lucky to have that, because so many people, and especially in the general population, just they don't have that connection that we do. And
I think there's a lot of merit to realizing that about yourself, and to be able to still find who you are, recenter, regardless of how much or how little you have to make with as well.
Right.
We've all seen videos of folks out in the middle of the desert, not like Brett and Jesse and Ben and that, but the other folks out in other deserts who've got piles of mud and a couple of sticks and massive smiles on their faces because they're making something tangible. Whether it's that or whether it's Hacksmith or Colin Furze with tens of thousands of pounds worth of tools making some super complex contraption, whether it's that or a pile of brown clay and a smile on our faces. There's always that kind of connection back to that kind of recentering ourselves with just doing that thing that gives us that tactility, that kind of that little outlet.
Yeah.
Actually, thinking about just a little thought strong on there when you said sort of Colin Furze there, Jamie. Andy, have you thought you've got to keep the footprint of your shop the same? Thought of going down?
I haven't. Well, actually, George did, because he wanted to actually sink the foam pit down.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Clever.
See?
Yep.
Clever.
So a sliding, when you're making stuff in there, you slide the floor in, and then you can pull it out and jump off from the roof, because there was a rooftop garden element to that too.
Yeah.
So
of course,
we're still working on the design.
Swimming pool up top.
Yeah, and a barbecue, pizza oven, kitchen area.
Cool.
We're thinking. So, but it was pretty cool to see him, work through that. Because with him, I'm really trying to, and his dad, who's an engineer, we try very hard to develop his thinking in the shop, and not just here's a hammer and some nails, make a lot of noise, but he does the for instance, like he mows my lawn, right? I think I've told you guys this before, but when the time came to switch from a bombed out old gas mower to an electric, I laid it on him and I said, okay, so I want to see your business proposal for which one you would buy and why. You'll have to be able to defend your decisions.
Fantastic.
Because I will try to break them down, and we'll work right through it. And if we can come to consensus on something that you've thought out and I agree with, then I'll buy it and you can use it. And so he did. He did a bunch of work, and we ended up with a kit that had a it had a mower and a string trimmer and a blower, all with the same batteries. And he broke down that these amp hours of batteries, we would work higher on this scale for this one, and so that he really worked it through. And
to have ownership of that as well, that's got to be such a good outlet for him then.
Yeah, it is, because kids these days, in the States, there's such an emphasis on sports and the possibility of being good at a sport so that you can pay for college, get a scholarship. Yeah. And, what percentage of kids are going to play college ball of anything? It's I would venture a guess 2-3% of the general. And I hate to see kids, because it's kind of like, yeah, this is what we're shooting for, but 98% of you are going to feel like you failed.
Yeah.
And I just, to give a kid that has a skill set that's different than most of his mates, and he can go in and brag, I think way back in the day, do you guys remember the first time he did gold leaf work? Well, I guess he was bragging about it to all his schoolmates, that he had done some 24 karat gold leafing, and
fantastic.
And he's still doing it. So he still does most of those skills. And his dad was just telling me Friday that they did a brake job together, and Zach said that George did one wheel and he did the other one. So he's 13.
Amazing.
So we're right from the get-go, we've been really adamant that he was going to be not in the shop. He was going to be learning the entirety of the mental part of it. And his dad is just magical at reinforcing a lot of those. Do you remember the the pencil sharpening? Remember how Jimmy was?
Yeah, the craze of how to sharpen pencils.
Yeah. Well, that actually worked into something that I had been banging on Georgie real hard about. So pencils have 6 sides, right? I think.
Yep.
So the thing that he had been working on for a month or 2 maybe was sharpening a pencil in 6 cuts with a razor knife. There it is.
Nice.
So you got 6 cuts. You can't make a secondary cut.
Nice.
And we after we were done doing whatever we were doing, and we'd grab a couple of beers, his dad and I, and sit there, and Georgie would sharpen pencils. So I he's seen all the Jimmy shows and stuff, and I said, Jimmy's. I showed him a couple of videos of how Jimmy was sharpening. I said, let's show Jimmy how you sharpen pencils. 6 freaking cuts. He had it. It was perfect. It was like
nice,
solid. But his dad told me that there were times when he goes, why is Uncle Andy making me sharpen pencils? And Zach said, well, you remember the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi?
Yep.
Do you really think he needed his fence? What was it? His fence painted? or the floor wax or something.
It's waxing the car as well. Isn't
car
Yeah.
waxing.
Yeah.
Do you really
There was
think
a fence as well, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. But I guess Georgie, it was like the light bulb went off. He went, oh, and he understood what we were trying to do, and just that. Think about it: a 13-year-old kid understanding the proper angle to enter a woodcut in, and then to be able to feel the difference as he finishes with the wood and then into the lead to a point that is fine enough, to make a fine line. So there's a lot going on in that move, and to do it confidently in one movement, right? There's
it's developing that muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah. And the inflexibility of what's perfect. That is also another big, it's just not right. It's okay. You did a good job, but it's not right. And it's okay to be that adamant, and because you could see the kid change, of getting to that point where, okay, you do one, Uncle Andy, so I would do one. And he would, now we're getting to the point where he's looking at it with an artisan's eye.
Yeah.
So he's not looking at the tip. He's looking at how the cut, if there's a belly in the cut or if there's a proper angle, it's just super fun to really be able, it's a rare opportunity to be able to dive that deep in. And the kid respects me, so I can ride him pretty hard. And we end up, in a hug at the end of the night, so it's, that's been really good for me, not having kids. It's been good for me to have that relationship with him, and it's been very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I can imagine that is super rewarding in that sense.
Absolutely.
Seems to me you're teaching him. You're teaching him three things. You're teaching him practical skills, which are invaluable. You're teaching him critical thinking.
Yep.
Which I think in this sort of day and age, I mean, certainly in the UK, schools have hit a big issue with homework because kids are just running it into ChatGPT or something similar, and that's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem that needs to be addressed. So I've got a few thoughts about that, but this isn't time and place for that. But you're also teaching him that he can have a go at things and do things, and that it's okay to fail and learn and to move on. And that is probably, even of those three things, which are vitally important. The critical thinking possibly trumps the practical skills, but sometimes maybe not. But you can do this. You might not get it right first time, but you can do it and you can get better.
Right.
That is something that a lot of, I think certainly nowadays, probably more so than 20, 30 years ago, young people struggle to, I don't think it's a young person problem either. I think this is something that adults struggle with, not being able to get something right straight away. Yeah.
It's the humility of it, isn't it?
I've watched the videos. I've watched the videos, and I should. People do this. The videos, they make it look really easy, and I can't do it very easy. Therefore, I can't do it. I'll give up. So I think if I was wearing a hat, I would doff my hat to you because you're having a very, very positive impact on that young man, and he will be a better adult for it.
I'm hoping so. I mean, it's nice to see him have a point of pride that isn't, athletics or video games or something. He definitely takes pride in the fact that he can talk to his mates about stuff they have no clue about.
Yeah.
I mean, as a 13-year-old, I was lost, absolutely lost. And so, yeah, I mean, if I would have had something like that I could like single myself out and say, I'm good at this. I don't care if anybody else is, you know,
you could have grown up to be the next Andy Birkey.
Oh, that's a bad thought. I don't know that the world needs like version 2.
I'm sorry, I almost insulted you by saying you'd grow up as well, but
you're just talking crazy talk.
I think any of us have got plans for that.
Oh dear. Face. Yeah. Oh, crikey. Say something, Andy.
Pressure's on.
Well, you know, back in my day.
I'm sure we've talked about this before. When did you get into woodworking and making?
Well, it was always there. We were not rich people, so you know we fixed stuff. But we always. My dad was a preacher, so his enjoyment was on Mondays, which is his one day of the week off. He would work on Volkswagen Beetles in the garage and rebuild engines and do all that. And we, you know, we were required to be out there and help him because he wanted to do the same thing. He went about it the wrong way, I thought, but it was just something that we were required to do. And then, you know, again, they were Mennonites, which are basically, they came out of the Mennonite church religion. So it was basically like Amish people. So, you know, it was farm mentality and it just was always part of the world. And we lived far enough out where I didn't go to McDonald's or something for my first job. I bought a Volkswagen Beetle and fixed it up, rebuilt the engine, and sold it before I could drive it legally. So that was my first job. Well, I was mowing lawns before then, but my first like making type job was that. And then I built plywood dehydrators in the garage one summer. I think I built like 14 or 16 of them. And, you know, it was always just there. And never really had. And I've tried to get away from it a few times early on, but it always drug me back in. And then when I got into a good crew of carpenters and stuff, then I really developed the pride and the tenacity and enjoy the struggle of it. And and those guys I really developed a lot with that crew, and which set me up to go to the Caribbean and work all over the hemisphere. So coast to coast here in the States and all over the place. And you know, it just kind of develops into who you are.
Yeah.
There was never a plan. Never. But yeah, it's provided us a decent living and a lot of flexibility. And not very many people who are creative get to, you know, do it for a living. So
the thought process just came to my head then with talking about, you know, kind of like the Mennonites and that kind of thing of, can you imagine the dichotomy of something like the Shaper origin in that kind of environment as here, have this, in this kind of like complete alien environment sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not a real flexible people by nature, which is probably why that is such a very important thing to me, to maintain that flexibility and the capacity to learn and develop and evolve. And but yeah, but my grandfather, who was he was born in a mud hut in Kansas, literal mud hut. They called them soddies. So they would like make blocks out of sod that they would cut and then stack them up, and that was your house. He went from that to, he passed away in 95. So he saw, the Apollo, the advent of the car, the world wars. And at one time he had 7,000 chickens on his farm. He had a big poultry farm, and he was quite the businessman. When he was a teenager, he was raising puppies and had enough of a advertising capacity that he was putting them on trains and shipping them to people throughout the states on trains.
Wow.
And
fantastic.
it was, he was an entrepreneur and just didn't, he would do whatever he needed to do. But he was fascinated by my travels and how I was able to get completely outside of his world. I would call him every Sunday afternoon from like the Caribbean, and he was absolutely fascinated in the differences. And well, now when you have to do that, what happens then? And so I kind of attribute a lot of my curiosity to him. When he passed away, I got a picture that he had torn out of a Time Life magazine of a beach in Fiji that he had framed in barnwood, and
Fantastic.
It's just, I don't know when he did that, but literally
You were living his dream.
Yeah. So yeah, I owe a lot to my grandfather.
Yeah, it's surprising how much of a massive impact they have on you as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was a funny guy. He the week that he passed away, when he was 95 years old, he was still he had found a loom, weaver's loom, in the basement of the old folks home that he was at, the Mennonite home that he was at. And he had fixed it up and somehow got some yarn, he was tearing up like jeans and stuff, stripping them and then weaving them into rugs. I was like, what are you doing? We have like 20 of them here because we would get some every time that we go to visit him. So, and they're amazing. They last. I have some that we've used on a daily basis for decades. And like I say, I've got some here with, all my nieces and nephews have their name on one of them. But, he was doing that the week before he passed away.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that's the end game. That's the maker end game, that, whatever your capacity is, because he did woodworking in his garage until it became dangerous for him to do. And so then he found something else to make.
Went on to invent the denim rug.
Yeah, exactly.
I just love that story. The whole kind of idea of, even when you kind of, many people consider too old to do anything. Of kind of going, ooh, the inquisitiveness to kind of go, well, what's down in the basement? And then the kind of,
right,
what's that? And, ooh, doesn't look like it, might be bits missing. Right, how can I fix that? Oh, now I fixed it, now I make it work. It's just kind of, I want to do the same sort of thing. I don't want, just to be sort of fixing things. It's like, yeah, I can always imagine. Yeah, so you visit somebody in an old folks' home or a care home, and they kind of think that thing's broken and that thing's broken. And you gotta go. Yeah, be nice to be that person and then go, oh, I noticed in my room this thing is broken. I'm going to fix it, rather than just ignoring it or complaining to the staff who then ignore it.
Right.
I think as well that there's that kind of curious and inquisitive nature of going, I haven't been down to the basement yet. Let's see if there's anything down there for me to play with. How can I get myself into trouble today?
Exactly. Well, I remember I was just, this is crazy because I was just thinking about this week, but I would take him to a fast food place called Dairy Queen around here. That there was one close to his place, and they would have this bar that had, like mustard and ketchup and pickles and onions on it, and you could just get your own and put them on your burger. Well, he would like get a napkin and go over and get like a big wad of pickles, bring them back and lay them on there, and there'd be like way too many pickles, and he'd have this twinkle in his eye like free pickles. Oh man, we are cut from the same cloth. Just that little twinkle in his eye of, they give these things out for free and nobody takes advantage of it.
You don't want them to go to waste.
No. And they're giving them away.
Yeah, free.
See, now I've just got that image of you like shoving straws into them and turning it into some kind of little vehicle, or
Did you know if you put 240 volts across a pickle, it will glow?
Yeah, exactly. Really hard.
It stinks too.
Vinegar doesn't burn well.
No. Yeah, definitely want to do it in a well-ventilated place.
Yeah, a little
Not that I would recommend anyone doing it unless you really know what you're doing, particularly kind of with live 240 volt terminals made out of 6-inch nails. Yeah.
So add in the extra information. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's be safe about that.
Yeah, use a Variac. Make sure you use a Variac. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those.
If you don't know what a Variac is, you shouldn't be doing it.
The website that me and a couple of other troublesome friends, it's an eBay store where they get all kinds of stuff, from anything from like offices to laboratory equipment or really weird obscure things, and they just sell them on. And James from Molten Make is always picking up weird bits of equipment, and me and Duncan from Little Hobby Shop, we always nosing at weird and wonderful things on there. And sure enough, a couple of days ago, they had two Variacs popped up on there.
Oh.
And immediately I went, ooh.
Now.
Yeah.
This? Yeah.
No, I was trying to be kind for your collection of other stuff.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get rid of stuff. Yeah. I do want a Variac. It'd be nice to have one.
I figured you'd already have had at least 6 in the garage or in the.
Yeah, I was assuming.
No, I've got a breakaway connector. Yeah, 3-pin plug connected to a lead, which you can just put things on. I've got one of those. But Variac's quite a decent Variac. It's a big multi-bit of kit. No, I don't have. I mean, I've got a 300 volt supply.
Yeah.
Other than the mains, but yeah.
You're basically the doctor in Back to the Future.
No, I had a haircut last week.
What was it, Doc Brown, wasn't it?
Doc Brown.
Yeah, Doc Brown, yeah. That's a good point, because they always say about mad scientists, but almost always they're just mad engineers, not scientists.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a misnomer. That always annoys me.
Yeah, but what's the boundary between a scientist and an engineer? It's a very blurry.
Clifford Stoll, his theory is if you do it once, it's science. If you do it twice, it's engineering. If you do it kind of 3 times or more, you're just a technician at that point.
Or they at least have a warrant out for you.
Yeah.
I mean, one could argue if you're a scientist and you're doing it once, you're not a very good scientist because you should be doing repeats.
No, that's what peer reviews for.
Let other people do the repeats. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you have technicians.
Yeah, let them light themselves up.
It's just it's going back to curiosity, isn't it? It's that. It's probably one of the. Again, I think it's one of the common traits amongst makers. That innate curiosity, whether it's
Absolutely.
that curiosity to go, what does happen if I stick 6-inch nails into pickles and connect it to the mains, or wonder what's down in the basement. Yeah, I think pretty much not absolutely every place that I've ever worked, but most places that I've worked, I've always gone exploring.
Oh yeah,
whether it's up
absolutely.
into the kind of attic, if it's available, access is available, into basements if there's basements available, just into cupboards. It's just kind of just nosy.
Well, that's part of it too.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to know what stuff's available. What can I working in a school, you don't just kind of stay in this. Well, I didn't just stay in the science department. I'd wander around to other departments, find out if there was something that might be useful to me.
What's new and interesting?
Yeah.
And what aren't people using? Because they don't have the imagination for it, right?
So much. I mean, I've worked in several schools where they had kind of like there's various names for it, but learner response systems. The little handheld gizmos. This is before kind of mobile phone. You can do it on mobile phones now. You don't need these so much. But little gizmos that you kind of every student gets one, and then you can put some questions up on the board. You can kind of go, right, what do you think it is? A, B, or C? And they can all click whatever one they think, and you can see how quickly it's taken for them to respond. You can see, so you kind of sort of get a good measure of it. You can see whether they're right or wrong. Useful to gauge opinion about things, or to sort of just judge basic knowledge, or you can put numbers in, and so everyone's involved rather than just one person putting their hand up and going, "Oh yes, Johnny, that's right, Johnny. Yes, you got it right again."
Right.
And always the sort of the same 3 students putting their hands up. But people not using them. You go, what's this case of things? Oh. This is £3,000 worth of learner response systems that no one's used in the last 2 years. Yeah, it's curiosity is a useful thing. Although, of course, sometimes as the saying goes, curiosity kills the cat.
Yeah, or burns down the shop.
It's one hell of a way to grab your attention.
You were experimenting, weren't you? Really? Yeah, you were.
I refused. What was it? What did you invoke earlier?
Yeah, the fifth. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of hate to think what would happen in my workshop if it caught fire. Be some interesting colours coming out, I think.
It happens quick. I know that, like real quick. It's an amazing. I've always heard that firemen treat fire like a living being, and I see it now. It takes what it wants, and it goes in a predictable path, but it wants oxygen, and it will get it. And pretty crazy thing. I mean, I'm a little less cavalier around it. Even torches and things like that, to be honest, the last couple of months. So,
yeah, understandably. Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that'll kind of creep back up, but
So here's the question then: have you figured out what you might do differently in terms of kind of. I know you've mentioned before, like on Instagram and things about network-enabled, kind of fire detection stuff and things.
Definitely be doing that. I think that's a real plus, because I think this would have been detected early on before it actually combusted. CO2, RFID, or our radio frequency anyway, interconnected. So we have 6 now. I thought maybe a couple in the shop. I've got to figure out how they respond to dust. And we've also...
Heat detectors might be an option, potentially.
Right. Yeah. We're trying to kind of figure out where we're going with that. We're also thinking about maybe putting in a sprinkler head or 2 out there. So, which I probably wouldn't do if it wasn't so close to other buildings. But because you're going to experience a big loss if those go off again. But at least everybody else around would be safer, because it put some other buildings at risk. It didn't take them. A very rare night in the winter of the Midwest where there was absolutely 0 wind. So everything, pretty much all the heat went straight up. Instead of, it's nothing for us to have, 20 knot winds or higher out here. And this one night, there was nothing, and it was just, you couldn't script it any better of a situation.
Yeah, it's very, very lucky for an unlucky situation.
Right. And
it could be a possibility that the fact that there was no wind was one of the contributing factors for the event happening.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm not. I was going to say I'm not a pyrotech. I'm not a qualified pyrotechnician. The ins and outs of.
I am, apparently.
Yeah.
Stoichiometry is a weird branch of science, anyway, isn't it?
And for fire, for fire, it's a more complex element of it too. Yeah, because in school, and the basics of fire, we teach the fire triangle. Yeah, you need fuel, you need oxygen, and you need heat.
Yep.
But once you start getting particularly into the chemical side of things, it's
not that simple.
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it does. And spontaneous combustion is a weird deal, because it's it builds its own ecosystem, really, of what it needs to live. And once it lives, it lives.
It'll certainly grab your attention, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Smooth.
Well, I know we've got things to do and things, and obviously it's the middle of the afternoon for Andy.
It is. It's 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, so. Still early. I was getting time for your dinner soon.
Yeah. Make some dinner. I've been talking about cooking, so we'll make something.
So it's your belly that's been rumbling.
Oh, yeah.
It's not mine. Mine's full of roast chicken dinner. Yeah, followed by crumble and custard.
And custard, of course, the custard. Yes.
Yeah, diet went out the window today with that. So I think what Jamie was hinting at is we got to that time of the show where we get talk about our attention grabbers and things that have been grabbing our attention. Now, clearly, for you, Andy, a big thing for the last few months and probably for the next few months is the shop.
Your accuracy.
Doing that.
Can't even say that.
Apart from that, anything else been grabbing your attention lately?
Actually, somebody turned me on to History Alice on Instagram. She has a very unique way of visiting historic sites in the UK and explaining the architecture and events that happened there, and very, very fascinating. Obviously, for me, it's fun because of the architectural bent of it. But yeah, she's very, very interesting to watch. It's History Alice. So.
Thinking about you this afternoon, actually, my wife and I went. It was a lovely afternoon, so we decided to head out to a place called Sissinghurst Castle. Unfortunately, we couldn't get in because the car park was full, so we kind of just sort of then ended up sort of driving a bit further on, and we saw a sign for something, and we thought, oh, we'll follow that, and we then missed whatever the next sign was, and we ended up in a village called Cranbrook, which is sort of in Kent, which is a lovely little village, and we had a little wander around, and we wandered into the church, which is open. And it's a beautiful church. It's unlike a lot of churches. It's very light in there. Huge, the stained glass windows are huge, and there's several of them are just plain glass. And it's really nice in there. It's clearly a working church. It's also a community church. There's signs of quite a lot of community sort of things. And it was sort of interesting, kind of sort of going in. They have a tour around the church showing the various different parts of it. The
Nice.
part of the church was built in, I think, something like 1392.
Yeah.
And it's just like unbelievable. But so many bits have been added on over the years. Because as you stand away from it, you can kind of sort of see the roof is in various parts, and the sort of side porch was sort of different. And the door on the side porch was from something like 1454 or something. Yeah, and it's the same.
Unbelievable.
It's just, it's a beautiful building. And just those little pockets of history. Even if you're you're not religious, you think just to have a kind of be able to touch a door that is, close on 700 years old. It's just like,
and we'll be here long after we're gone.
Yeah,
that's to me, that's a grounding, and it kind of redefines your small spot in the timeline of humanity. It's healthy. It's just healthy for me, anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
We had a comment in the chat from Ken, goes by Al McGill.
Oh, cool.
+1 for Alice Loxton, history_Alice. So
I've already found her as well.
Will be a link in the show notes for that.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Well, I really enjoy her work. She does a lot of background. I mean, she's not just mucking about in there. She's I don't know what her background is, but she's very, very bright.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that kind of well-researched kind of content as well.
Yeah, putting things into context. I've seen a couple of her sort of reels that have come through on my when you're just going through reels and you get sort of things suggested to you. And I've seen a couple there, and it's just sort of seeing little things, perhaps in context of, oh, that's why they do that. And it's I think a lot of history sort of taught in schools tends to be kind of kings and queens, and major battles, but they don't necessarily talk about the why was I can't think of a good example. Why did beds have why were they built in boxes? What was the whole point of that? A boxed bed, and it's just like, oh yeah, because it was really drafty and there's no central heating, and there were animals in the same room because that's what happened in winter in that peasant house in 14th century England or Wales.
Snuggle up to a cow to keep warm.
Yeah.
Well, it's a similar sort of thing where you've had like, there'll be a knife up above a door or something, and some archaeologist or group of researchers somewhere have gone out. It must be for like religious reasons or some kind of ceremonial thing or stuff like that. And then kind of a mother has kind of wandered in and gone, or it was just a safe place to put the sharp stuff out of the way of the kids.
Exactly.
Yes,
Oh.
Context.
Right. Yeah, not everything's about ceremony, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or superstition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Think inside the box on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, what about you? What's been grabbing your attention?
A lot of prep and stuff, making the most of because we've got a long weekend here in the UK at the minute. So we've got tomorrow off. So yeah, just a bit of prep for Maker Central stuff and kind of last minute 3D printing and designs and that kind of mostly that pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of just that when you think I'm done now, I think, but then I could just do this and then maybe I could
But
lots
wait.
of but wait, there's more.
The morning of Friday the 12th of May, you'll still be doing stuff.
Right.
Well, no, I've set myself the goal of being done by this time next weekend, so that I've then got time to have everything there and checked and sorted, to give myself a few days to breathe, and then crap myself and go, oh, well, I forgot this thing that's now going to take a week to do.
Right.
So, yeah. Draw a line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah.
How about you, Andy?
I'll make a little note. I'll ask about that next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still working on my Fools of Tools treasure trade. Kind of completely gone back to square one and replanned. The still making changes at the Maker Shed, men's shed. Still doing sort of that and teaching people. I mentioned last time about kind of a gentleman who wanted to make a casket for his wife's ashes. A couple of us met up with him on Friday, which isn't a normal day, this last week, and made a start on that, which went well. And he's kind of he's pleased with the progress, and it's nice to be able to kind of sort of give somebody in that position that kind of help. So that was good. The other thing that caught my attention this week, our good friend Ruth Amos was on Dan, who we had on a few weeks ago, Simple Electronics podcast. She was on the podcast this week. It was a very interesting chat. So very much.
I do need to catch up on this.
Yeah, so that was a particularly good one. I'd certainly recommend that as a
Nice.
an entry point into sort of Dan's podcast. A lot of electronics, obviously, by the name. So he often talks to people that are specifically electronics. But it was nice hearing Ruth and hearing aspects of her story from a slightly different angle again. Yeah, because obviously different podcasters ask different questions.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It was really interesting chat. So definitely recommend.
Hang on, are we supposed to ask questions of our guests?
No, other podcasters.
Okay.
Yeah. Not us. We don't need to worry about that. Don't worry.
just meander around.
I suppose the only question we do need to ask is, Andy, where can people find you if they don't already know?
Well, make us Waffle.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
2 times.
Other Andy.
I'm mainly on Instagram these days at Andy_Birkey, Birkey.
But hopefully
on the Faking It podcast.
And the Faking It podcast.
6 years ago. Let's talk about milking it for all it's worth, right?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
For sure. Absolutely, for sure. Andy,
it's been
thank you for coming on.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure again. Yeah,
and you guys know that.
Yeah, I want to thank you particularly for your honesty and your willingness to put yourself kind of into it's something that must be difficult to talk about. We can only thank you for that. And
yeah, absolutely. I figured this is the first time I have talked about it, and when we talked about me coming on, I figured it was probably the safest place that I could imagine, making my first talking about it. And so, yeah, cheers to you guys for providing that space for me and a lot of people.
We're honored that you are comfortable too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
picking up some of your Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely, good fun.
On that note, we will say goodbye to folks, and we will hopefully see people next week. And hopefully we'll see people next week.
Thanks for having me, guys. Super
Thank you
cool.
for joining us.
Absolutely our pleasure. Yeah. Right. We'll go now. Bye.
Bye.